Welcome back to the radio. Tonight, you find yourself in the year 1704, walking the worn paths between small wooden houses with nothing but the messages in your head. You carry news the way others carry baskets of apples, except yours are invisible and much easier to drop. The streets are quiet, a faint mix of wood smoke and damp earth in the air, and the buildings lean just enough to make you wonder if they're whispering to each other when no one's looking. Of course, the real challenge of being a messenger is remembering every word, which is why you've started filling in the bits you forget with your own best guesses. That's probably why most folks now ask for it in writing. Apparently, Mrs. Carter's invitation to supper was not meant to include, "Bring a goat." So, tell me, what time is it where you are? And where are you listening from tonight? I'd be glad to know who's keeping me company here at Quilloren Radio. Without further ado, let's begin. You step down from your horse onto uneven cobblestones, slick with lingering dampness from a morning rain. The air is crisp, carrying the faint but unmistakable scent of wood smoke and freshly turned earth. Around you, the small New England town settles into the quiet rhythm of early evening, its streets nearly deserted, save for a few figures wrapped in homespun wool moving steadily along worn paths. The wooden beams of the buildings are darkened by age and weather, their windows small and glowing dimly with flickering candlelight. As you walk toward the town inn, the wooden gate creaks softly in the light breeze, a sound stretched thin across the still air. A cat perches on a nearby fence post, its yellow eyes tracking your every step with the kind of wary curiosity usually reserved for strangers bearing news. You feel the weight of the day pressing gently on your shoulders, the soft thud of your boots on stone, the subtle shift of leather straps, the murmur of distant voices carried on the wind. The tavern door swings open with a familiar groan, revealing a dim interior warmed by a low-burning fire. The scent of spilled ale, damp wool, and stale smoke fills the room. Patrons sit quietly at rough-hewn tables, their conversations muted, punctuated only by the occasional clink of a wooden tankard or the shuffle of worn boots on creaking floorboards. Shadows stretch long across the walls, shifting with the flicker of candlelight. You take a moment to steady yourself, running your fingers along the grain of a scarred wooden counter that has held countless whispered stories and hurried messages. Outside, the wind carries a faint call of horses in the distance, and the soft rustle of leaves as the night deepens and the town folds gently into stillness. The moment is quiet, anchored by small, odd details, the creak of a loose board, the faint scent of pine mixed with wood smoke, the ever-watchful eyes of a stray cat who seems to understand the importance of the news you carry. You step down from your horse onto uneven cobblestones, slick with lingering dampness from a morning rain. The air is crisp, carrying the faint but unmistakable scent of wood smoke and freshly turned earth. Around you, the small New England town settles into the quiet rhythm of early evening, its streets nearly deserted, save for a few figures wrapped in homespun wool moving steadily along worn paths. The wooden beams of the buildings are darkened by age and weather, their windows small and glowing dimly with flickering candlelight. As you walk toward the town inn, the wooden gate creaks softly in the light breeze, a sound stretched thin across the still air. A cat perches on a nearby fence post, its yellow eyes tracking your every step, with the kind of wary curiosity usually reserved for strangers bearing news. You feel the weight of the day pressing gently on your shoulders, the soft thud of your boots on stone, the subtle shift of leather straps, the murmur of distant voices carried on the wind. The tavern door swings open with a familiar groan, revealing a dim interior warmed by a low-burning fire. The scent of spilled ale, damp wool, and stale smoke fills the room. Patrons sit quietly at rough-hewn tables, their conversations muted, punctuated only by the occasional clink of a wooden tankard or the shuffle of worn boots on creaking floorboards. Shadows stretch long across the walls, shifting with the flicker of candlelight. You take a moment to steady yourself, running your fingers along the grain of a scarred wooden counter that has held countless whispered stories and hurried messages. Outside, the wind carries a faint call of horses in the distance and the soft rustle of leaves as the night deepens and the town folds gently into stillness. The moment is quiet, anchored by small, odd details. The creak of a loose board, the faint scent of pine mixed with wood smoke, the ever-watchful eyes of a stray cat who seems to understand the importance of the news you carry. You settle onto a worn stool by the fire, feeling the warmth seep into your chilled bones. The crackle of flames blends with the soft murmur of voices, a soothing backdrop to the stillness. Nearby, a group of travelers exchanges quiet greetings, their breath visible in the cool air. The flicker of the candlelight casts fleeting shadows on their faces, revealing tired eyes and weathered hands. The atmosphere is calm, but charged with the subtle tension of unspoken stories and messages waiting to be passed along. Outside, the sky darkens further, revealing a scattering of stars that peek through the gaps between low-hanging clouds. The moon hangs low, its silver light brushing the rooftops and cobblestones, lending the town an otherworldly glow. The wind picks up briefly, stirring loose leaves and sending a chill down your spine, before settling once more into a gentle whisper. You notice the faint sound of a horse's hooves, approaching from the distance, steady and rhythmic against the quiet night. The messenger's arrival reminds you of your own journey, the countless roads traveled and messages delivered by word of mouth, carried not on paper but by trust and voice. It's a method slowly changing, yet still vital in these parts where letters remain rare and writing a privilege few possess. Your eyes drift to a small, folded piece of parchment tucked carefully inside your satchel. The edges are frayed, the ink faded by time, but it holds weight far beyond its modest size. You handle it gently, aware that it represents a new way of communicating, one that many here have yet to fully embrace. For now, the spoken word remains king, carrying the nuances of tone and the warmth of human presence that a letter could never quite capture. As the night deepens, you let your thoughts wander. The town's quiet seems to stretch endlessly, a world apart from the bustling ports and cities you've known. Here, time moves with a steady, deliberate pace. Conversations are soft, movements measured, and every sound feels magnified in the stillness. The creak of floorboards, the rustle of fabric, the distant call of an owl, all stitched together into a tapestry of quiet life. Your gaze returns to the cat watching from the fence, its yellow eyes glinting like small lanterns in the dark. It blinks slowly and disappears into the shadows, as if it, too, understands the delicate balance of this world, a place where every whispered message holds power and every silence carries meaning. You take a deep breath, savoring the mingled scents of wood smoke, damp earth, and faint spices from the tavern's hearth. The warmth seeps into you, grounding you in this moment suspended between day and night, word and silence, past and future. Outside, the lanterns flicker, their glow casting long shadows that dance across the cobblestones. The soft murmur of voices fades to a hush, replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves and the steady beat of your own heartbeat. The world narrows to this small town, this quiet inn, this fragile balance of sound and stillness. You close your eyes briefly, letting the peace settle over you like a familiar cloak. The road ahead is long, the messages many, but for now, there is only this moment, the soft crackle of fire, the distant stars, and the whispered promise of stories yet to be told. The faint scent of fresh ink lingers in the air, subtle yet unmistakable, mingling softly with the heavier aroma of smoldering wood and damp earth. You lean closer to the hearth, feeling the gentle warmth on your face as the fire crackles quietly, sending faint shadows dancing across the rough plaster walls of the tavern. The smell pulls you back through the day, to a small candlelit room earlier this morning, where a clerk sits bent over a sturdy wooden desk. The only light comes from a flickering candle, its flame wavering in the draft that slips through a cracked window. The air is thick with the faint musk of beeswax, worn parchment, and ink that still feels wet enough to smudge. You remember watching the clerk's hand move with deliberate care. The quill dips into a small pot of ink, then glides across the coarse parchment with a soft scratch, each stroke slow and measured. The scratching of the nib fills the room with a rhythmic whisper, a steady cadence that seems to mark time itself. The letters form with painstaking precision, looping and curling in elegant script, a language of patience and permanence in a world otherwise ruled by hurried words and fleeting sounds. Around you, the quiet hum of the day's beginning filters in faintly, the distant hammering of a blacksmith shaping iron, the clatter of wooden wheels on dirt roads, the bark of dogs chasing each other through narrow alleys. Outside the window, the early morning sun spills through small, uneven panes, casting long, golden shafts of light that fall across the clerk's desk and scatter patterns on the floorboards. Dust motes float lazily in the beams, caught between shadow and light, as if suspended in time. The clerk pauses, blotting excess ink with a folded cloth, leaving behind a small, dark smudge on the corner of the page. That tiny imperfection makes the message feel human, fragile, a reminder that even the most carefully crafted words carry the mark of their maker, imperfections and all. You wonder if the letter's recipient will notice the smudge, or if it will be lost in the flow of the message's weight. In that quiet room, time seems to stretch and fold, held captive by the steady rhythm of pen on paper. The clerk's expression is calm but focused, a mixture of pride and reverence for the words he shapes, knowing they will travel far beyond this small town. For many, letters remain a curiosity, a strange new way to communicate that requires patience and trust. Spoken words, after all, carry tone, hesitation, laughter. They live and breathe with the teller. Letters, once sealed, are fixed in meaning, unyielding and permanent. You recall the curious glances from townsfolk who find the idea of written messages odd, almost unnecessary. Why ask for words in ink when we can speak face to face? They ask, shaking heads softly. There's comfort in the voice, in the breath that carries emotion too subtle for ink and parchment. Yet, the clerk's work is slowly weaving a new thread through the fabric of communication, a quiet revolution of words fixed in time. The scent of fresh bread from the bakery drifts through the open window, mingling with the faint tang of ink and wood smoke. Nearby, a bird calls softly, its song clear and hopeful. The world outside wakes slowly, the town's rhythms measured and gentle. You think about how messages once traveled only by mouth, carried by trusted voices from one ear to another, words bending and shifting like the leaves in the wind. Now, this small script offers permanence, a way to hold on to things too easily forgotten. As the memory lingers, the candle flickers again, casting wavering light on the page and making the ink shimmer faintly. The quiet scratch of the quill resumes, a sound that feels both ancient and new. The moment is tender and delicate, filled with the weight of small decisions, the choice of words, the pause between sentences, the seal pressed firm. The sound of a door creaking open brings you gently back to the present. The warmth of the tavern embraces you once more, the smell of burnt wood and spilled ale settling like a familiar cloak. Outside, the night deepens, cool air brushing your skin, carrying with it the faint murmur of voices and the steady rhythm of your own breath. You sit quietly, letting the echoes of that morning settle around you. The memory folds into the present like a soft breeze, carrying with it the gentle reminder that every message, whether spoken or written, holds a piece of its teller, flawed, imperfect, but undeniably human. The world outside the tavern windows grows stiller now, stars prickling the dark sky with soft light. You feel the steady pull of time, moving slowly but surely forward. The letter in your satchel feels heavier in your hand, a tangible link between past and present, between voices carried on the wind and words etched on paper. For a moment, you imagine the clerk's hand finishing the final line, folding the page carefully, pressing it into a seal that will keep the message safe. The world is quiet, waiting for those words to journey onward, carried not just by ink and parchment, but by the trust and care of those who understand the power of a message, no matter its form. You breathe deeply, the warmth of the fire mingling with the cool night air that slips through cracks in the tavern walls. The echoes of the day settle softly inside you, a quiet reassurance that no matter how the world changes, some things, the weight of words, the comfort of voice, remain steady. Outside, a distant owl hoots softly, its call a gentle punctuation to the night. The sounds of the town begin to fade into stillness, leaving only the soft crackle of the fire and the steady rhythm of your own heartbeat. You close your eyes briefly, letting the memory and the moment blend into one seamless thread of calm. The scent of ink, wood smoke, and damp earth lingers just a little longer before giving way entirely to the quiet of night. And with that, you rest in the soft embrace of time's gentle passage, carried forward by the faintest whisper of yesterday's words. The morning arrives slowly, wrapped in a soft haze that filters pale sunlight through the dusty windows of the tavern. You rise from your stool, muscles stretched and eased by the warmth of the fire you'd left burning low overnight. Outside, the town is already beginning to stir, a faint clatter of wooden wheels on cobblestones, a low murmur of voices drifting on the cool air. The world feels quiet, but alive, ready for another day of whispered news and careful steps. Stepping outside, you are greeted by a crisp breeze that carries with it the scent of pine and freshly baked bread from the bakery down the street. A neighbor stands nearby, a sturdy woman wrapped in a thick wool cloak, her hands busy arranging bundles of herbs on a weathered cart. Her face lifts briefly to meet yours, and she offers a nod, the kind that speaks of routine and unspoken understanding. "Morning," she says, her voice low and steady like the hum of a familiar tune. You return the greeting, noting the way her breath forms little clouds in the chilly air. There's a pause between you, the kind of quiet that feels more like shared space than awkwardness. Around you, the town's rhythm pulses gently, footsteps tapping on stone, a child's laughter echoing faintly from an alley, the soft creak of shutters being pulled open. A passerby tips his hat as he approaches, a middle-aged man with hands calloused from years of work. He pauses, eyeing the parcels strapped to your saddle. "Delivering word of mouth again, I see," he says with a dry smile. "Most folks these days want it written down. Too much trouble to trust the tongue." You chuckle softly, the sound blending with the rustle of leaves overhead. "Well, there's a certain art to it," you reply. "Besides, I've seen how words on paper can sometimes be as slippery as those carried by voice." He nods thoughtfully, then points toward the market square, where a small crowd is gathered. "A few curious ears, I expect. You'd do well to slow your pace today." Let the stories breathe. The advice feels like an invitation rather than a command. You glance toward the square, imagining the soft murmur of voices weaving through the stalls, stories intertwining like threads in a tapestry. As you make your way, a young boy darts past, chasing a worn wooden hoop that bounces unevenly over the stones. He pauses briefly, looking back at you with wide eyes, and calls out, "Will you tell us a tale today?" The question hangs in the air, light and hopeful. You smile, nodding in acknowledgement, and the boy grins before disappearing around a corner. At the market, the scent of herbs, spices, and fresh fruit mingles, carried on the gentle breeze. Vendors arrange their goods with practiced hands, their faces marked by years of steady labor and quiet pride. Conversations rise and fall in gentle waves, voices soft and measured, punctuated by the occasional laugh that slips out before being tucked away again. You find yourself drawn into a brief exchange with a woman selling woven baskets, her fingers deftly finishing the last strands of a handle. Her eyes twinkle with a hint of mischief as she remarks on the peculiar fashions from distant towns, comparing them to the practical styles favored here. "The world changes," she says softly, "but some things like a good basket never go out of style." You agree, noting how the sturdy weave and natural materials speak of timelessness amid shifting trends. The conversation flows naturally, filled with pauses that allow both of you to reflect on the quiet joys of simple craftsmanship. Nearby, an older man leans on his cane, watching the scene with a contented smile. He offers a gentle nod as you pass, his gaze lingering on the worn leather satchel at your side. "Carrying more than just messages, I bet," he says in a voice gravelly with age but warm with kindness. You nod, appreciating the subtle acknowledgement of the unseen weight that accompanies your work, the stories, the secrets, the hopes folded into every whispered word. Throughout the morning, you move slowly, savoring the soft exchanges that knit the town together. Each greeting, each shared glance, adds a quiet layer to the day's fabric. The hum of daily life, footsteps, murmured conversations, the clink of tools and wares, creates a soothing backdrop that feels like a steady heartbeat beneath everything. You pause near a wooden bench, settling briefly to watch as a pair of sparrows flit between branches overhead. Their delicate songs weave through the air, light and unhurried, a reminder of the gentle rhythms that underpin even the busiest days. A familiar voice calls your name, a friend and fellow courier, his face breaking into a grin. He joins you on the bench, and the two of you share a quiet moment, swapping stories of roads traveled and messages carried. His humor is dry, understated, a subtle thread of warmth woven through his words. "You ever notice," he says, "how the longest journeys often happen between the same few blocks? Seems the hardest roads are the ones we walk every day." You laugh softly, the sound blending with the sparrows chirping. It's a thought that lingers, simple but true, the journey not just a matter of distance, but of the moments and interactions along the way. As the sun climbs higher, casting gentle light through the leaves, you rise again, ready to continue. The town hums softly around you, a patchwork of voices and sounds that feels both familiar and ever-changing. Each small interaction leaves its mark, a whispered greeting, a shared smile, a quiet acknowledgement of connection. You carry these moments with you as you move forward, the soft fabric of the day wrapping gently around your shoulders. The world is alive with quiet stories, waiting to be passed along by voice, by glance, by the simple act of being present. You settle into a quiet corner of the tavern, the fire's gentle glow wrapping the room in a warm embrace that contrasts with the cool night pressing against the windows. Outside, the town's murmurs fade into a soft hush, leaving space for your thoughts to wander, to drift not toward sharp moments of change or drama, but to a time long ago and far away, where your story quietly began. It's not a grand beginning, just an ordinary place that shaped you in ways almost invisible now. You see yourself in a narrow room perched high above a bustling colonial city, the kind of place where the streets never truly slept, even in the deep hours before dawn. The smell of fresh ink mingles with the faint musk of worn paper and dust that settles in corners forgotten by cleaning hands. The wooden floorboards creak beneath your feet as you cross to a heavy desk, cluttered with bundles of letters tied in fraying twine and stacks of parchment marked with delicate, looping handwriting. A single oil lamp sits at the desk's edge, its flickering flame casting long, wavering shadows against the plastered walls, worn and yellowed with age. Its light paints the room in soft amber hues, revealing a world that feels at once timeless and fragile, like the messages you help carry, between sender and receiver, between past and future. You reach down to grasp a set of old iron keys, their cold weight resting solidly in your palm. The keys clink softly as you move them, a small, comforting noise that grounds you amid the faint chaos of the city outside. They open a heavy door leading to a vault where letters wait silently, their journeys paused but imminent. The work is slow and deliberate. You copy messages in neat, precise script, careful to avoid smudging the wet ink that glistens faintly in the lamp's light. Sometimes your quill slips, leaving behind a blot that transforms the tone of a phrase in ways you never intended. You chuckle quietly to yourself, remembering one letter where a careless smear changed a polite request into something resembling a threat, a humorous error that only the keenest eyes would notice. You pause to straighten a stack of sealed envelopes, the wax seals stamped with intricate crests that speak of families, towns, or the messenger guild itself. Each letter is a promise, words locked safely inside, waiting to be carried forward by someone you may never meet. Beyond the room's thick walls, the city hums with life. You hear the rhythmic pounding of the blacksmith's hammer, the clatter of horse hooves on cobblestones, and the distant laughter of children chasing one another through narrow alleys. The scent of fresh bread drifts faintly in through the open window, mingling with the earthy smell of wet stone and smoke. You think about the world outside, where messages still travel mostly by word of mouth, by breath and trust. Written letters are a newer invention here, a strange and somewhat precious thing. You recall the skeptical glances of townsfolk who question why anyone would bother with ink and paper when spoken words carry tone, hesitation, and warmth. Words on paper don't lie, some say, but they don't smile either. Your thoughts drift to the clerk who worked beside you, a man with a dry wit and a habit of signing his name with a flourish so elaborate it nearly spilled off the page. He was fond of deadpan humor, often muttering that one day the town would be overrun with scribes and sealers, making messengers like you obsolete. You'd laugh then, both of you aware that the world was changing, but also certain that some things would stay the same no matter the ink or quill. Sometimes you'd watch the streets below from the small window, seeing people go about their days with steady determination. Farmers bringing produce to market, merchants calling out prices, children darting between legs in carts. Life carried on, as it always did, its patterns woven quietly through time. You recall a particular morning when a letter you'd carefully copied was mistakenly sent to the wrong recipient. The confusion was small and quickly resolved, but it left you pondering the fragility of messages, their power to connect or confound, depending on a single misplaced word or slip of ink. It reminded you that communication, no matter its form, always carried a risk of misunderstanding, but also the hope of connection. Your hands remember the feel of the parchment, the slight roughness beneath your fingertips, the way it softened with time and handling. The scent of ink still clings faintly to your fingers, a reminder of the countless letters shaped by your careful quill. There was comfort in that routine, the repetitive motions grounding you, the quiet sense that your work mattered in a subtle, unspoken way. You weren't just copying words, you were bridging distances, carrying pieces of people's lives from one place to another. It was a kind of invisible labor, woven into the fabric of everyday existence. The memory settles softly, like a well-worn book left open on a table. There is no longing or regret here, only a calm recognition of a chapter that led you gently to the present. The keys, the ink, the fragile letters, they are threads in the tapestry of your story, faded at the edges but no less real. As the room around you fades, the warmth of the tavern returns, wrapping you in its familiar embrace. The crackle of the fire, the murmur of distant voices, and the scent of wood smoke ground you once more in the present moment. You sit quietly, your breath steady, the echoes of the past mingling with the soft rhythms of the now. Outside, the night deepens, stars twinkling through the gaps in the shutters like distant promises. There is a gentle peace in this quiet space, an understanding that every story, no matter how small or worn, holds weight. The tavern's wooden floorboards creak softly beneath your boots as you make your way toward the quiet corner by the east-facing window, a small worn table bathed in the late afternoon light. The surface is mottled with scratches and stains, a patchwork testament to years of hands resting, cups setting down, and pens scrawling across its grain. It's a place that feels untouched by the rush of the outside world, a small sanctuary where time seems to fold back gently on itself. You settle into the wooden chair, its varnish peeling slightly at the edges, and reach for the leather-bound journal resting in the center of the table. The cover is soft from years of handling, its dark brown leather mottled with faint marks and impressions, some accidental, others deliberate, as if the book itself carries the history of countless quiet moments. The spine creaks softly as you open it, revealing pages yellowed by time and thick with the delicate scratch of a well-used quill. The first thing that strikes you is the scent, rich and layered, a warm blend of aged leather, cedar wood, and a faint whisper of lavender tucked between the pages. It's a smell that feels like home, familiar and grounding, the kind of quiet comfort you didn't realize you were missing until you found it again. You inhale deeply, letting the aroma settle into your skin, a soft reminder that some things linger, even as the world outside rushes on. Your eyes scan the pages, taking in the neat, looping handwriting that fills each line, a mix of daily notes, sketches, and little asides. One page bears a delicate drawing of a sunlit porch, its wooden steps worn smooth by countless footsteps and wrapped in creeping ivy. The lines are fine and careful, but there's a charming imperfection to the shading, as if the artist was more interested in capturing feeling than exact form. You run your finger lightly over the ink, imagining the quiet morning spent there, the soft creak of the porch, the distant song of sparrows, the slow dance of sunlight through leaves. Nearby, the scent of wood polish drifts faintly from the corner cabinet, a sturdy piece made of dark oak, its surface scarred with the nicks and dents that come from years of use. The polish adds a fresh, piney note that mingles with the journal's earthier tones, weaving together a sensory tapestry that anchors you in this small lived-in space. You notice the faintest scratch on the cabinet's edge, just enough to catch the light, and can't help but think it resembles the map of some forgotten coastline, a place you've never been but feel curiously drawn to. The room around you is quiet, save for the soft murmur of voices from the main tavern and the distant clatter of dishes being cleared. A client slips inside quietly, settling into a nearby chair with a calm familiarity. Their eyes flicker toward the journal on the table, a knowing smile touching their lips. No words are spoken, but the moment feels rich with unspoken understanding, an acknowledgement of shared history, of the small stories that bind people together in subtle, invisible ways. You close the journal carefully, the soft thud of the cover against the table echoing like a heartbeat in the stillness. The leather feels warm beneath your hands, its surface worn smooth, as though it has been touched by generations. This object, simple, unassuming, and yet deeply personal, feels like a quiet refuge, a core memory wrapped in pages and ink. Outside the window, a gentle breeze stirs the curtains, carrying with it the faint rustle of leaves and the distant laughter of children playing in the street. The light shifts, casting long shadows that stretch across the table, wrapping the room in a golden glow. You breathe slowly, letting the calm seep into your bones, the journal's presence a steady anchor amid the slow unfolding of the day. You find humor in the little details, the way the ink smudges here and there, turning neat words into a charming mess, the way the wood grain of the table twists and knots like a secret code no one has quite cracked. Life's imperfections, you think, are what make it worth holding on to. The cabinet creaks softly as you reach out to touch it, its surface cool and rough beneath your fingers. You imagine the hands that once polished it, the countless stories that have passed through this room, the quiet moments of pause and reflection nestled between more hurried days. The scent of polish and wood lingers, a reminder that some things, like memories and routines, are carefully preserved, even as the world changes around them. You glance back at the journal, your eyes tracing the familiar lines and curves of handwriting that feel like a soft conversation with yourself across time. There is no rush here, no pressure to move forward or change course. This space, these objects, hold a quiet promise that you are grounded, connected to something lasting amid the shifting tides of life. The tavern hums softly around you, the clink of glasses, the low murmur of voices, the gentle scrape of a chair pulled back. Outside, the sun dips lower, the sky deepening into warm shades of amber and rose. You take one last deep breath, savoring the mixture of scents, sounds, and sensations that wrap around you like a well-worn cloak. This corner, this journal, this cabinet, they are more than just objects or furniture. They are touchstones, small beacons in the quiet sea of your days. And in their steady presence, you find a soft peace that carries you gently forward. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to subscribe to Quilloren Radio. It helps keep these gentle moments coming your way. The evening settles around you like a soft blanket, the warm glow from the fading sun spilling through the window and casting gentle shadows across the room. Outside, the air holds a subtle chill, carrying with it the distant scent of pine and damp earth. You sit quietly, your breath even and slow, feeling the stillness press softly against your skin. In this calm space, your thoughts begin to drift, wandering through the gentle corridors of memory and possibility, to places you once imagined but never quite reached. It's a familiar feeling, that quiet nudge of a wish left unexplored, a gentle whisper of what-ifs that linger just beyond reach. Not heavy regrets or sharp disappointments, but soft, almost intangible yearnings that float like clouds drifting across a wide sky. They are there when the mind has room to wander and no pressing demands to pull you back. You think back to a time when life felt simpler, or perhaps just different, standing in a kitchen bathed in morning light, the smell of vanilla and melted butter curling through the air. You remember the slow, rhythmic movement of a whisk in your hand, blending pancake batter in a well-worn bowl. The warmth of the stove nearby hums quietly, a comforting presence in the room. You smile to yourself, recalling the way your arms tired more quickly than you expected. Who would have guessed whisking batter was a workout in disguise? Once, you dreamed of becoming a pastry chef, mastering the art of delicate pastries and warm breads. Now, the idea feels quietly amusing, a private joke between your present self and the one you were long ago. That memory folds into others, small, gentle moments tucked away in corners of time. You recall the instruments you once meant to learn but never did, the paintbrushes left untouched, the books you never quite finished. There was a language you planned to study, phrases whispered under your breath in quiet hopes, and a place you thought you'd move to, its streets unfamiliar but inviting. None of these feel like failures or losses, just paths set aside with a kind of peaceful acceptance. Did you wait too long? The question arises softly, but not with urgency or blame. More like a curious murmur in the background, as if the thought itself is surprised to be noticed after so long. Could you still learn that skill, pick up that instrument, or move to that place? Would it still feel right, or would it be a strange echo of a past self reaching out from another time? These questions hang lightly, inviting reflection without demanding answers. You imagine your past selves watching quietly, those versions of you who held these wishes close. Would they recognize who you are now? Would they smile at the twists and turns that brought you here? Perhaps they'd be amused or a bit bewildered, like learning that the child who dreamed of distant adventures now finds joy in quiet evenings and simple routines. There's a dry humor to this thought, a small grin that tugs at your lips as you imagine the surprise in their eyes. In your mind's eye, you see a locked door standing quietly across a long hallway, a door you never opened. Your hand rests gently on the smooth wood, feeling the cool surface beneath your fingertips. You wonder if the key you needed was ever in your pocket or if it slipped away unnoticed. Standing beside this door, you don't feel regret or frustration, only a calm curiosity. The door remains closed, not a barrier, but a quiet question mark. The sounds of the evening filter in softly, leaves rustling outside, a distant dog barking, the faint clink of a glass being set down in the tavern. These small noises anchor you in the present, as your thoughts wander freely between past dreams and future possibilities. You picture yourself in a garden of these lingering wishes, each one a delicate flower, opening just enough to reveal a hint of color before closing again. The soft scent of blooming jasmine mixes with the earthiness of the soil beneath your feet. Among the blossoms, you see the violin you once wanted to learn, its smooth wooden body gleaming in the dappled sunlight. You imagine the feel of the bow in your hand, the quiet scrape of strings, the notes hanging in the air, imperfect, tentative, but full of promise. There's the memory of a fresh loaf of bread, warm from the oven, the crust crackling softly as you slice through it. The smell is comforting, rich with the sweetness of grain and the faint tang of yeast. You see your younger self standing in a small bakery, hands dusted with flour, surrounded by the hum of morning customers and the quiet satisfaction of creation. These small, soft fantasies float past like leaves on a stream, fleeting private moments that don't ask for anything but gentle attention. They are harmless and inconsequential, yet they carry the weight of unspoken hopes and quiet yearnings. You allow yourself to lean into them without expectation, savoring the delicate lightness they bring. The dry humor of life's unpredictability sneaks in here too. You recall your past plans of grandeur, and now find contentment in the slow stir of a cup of tea or the steady tick of a clock. It's a private joke, the grand adventures replaced by everyday moments made meaningful by their simplicity. Breathing slowly, you let the warmth of the fading day seep into your bones. The world around you feels vast, yet intimate, a place where doors remain unopened and wishes quietly linger. Time seems to stretch and soften, folding past, present, and future into one gentle moment. There is no rush to find answers, no need to force clarity or closure. Instead, you sit with the questions, holding them lightly, like a soft feather caught in a breeze. The what-ifs and lingering wishes are part of your story, threads woven into the quiet fabric of your life. And in this soft space, held by the calm rhythms of evening and the gentle pulse of your own breath, you find peace. The old wooden chest sits quietly in the corner of the room, its surface worn smooth and marred with small scratches that tell of years gone by. You reach out and lift the heavy lid, feeling the cool brass latch give way with a soft creak. A faint, musty scent rises from inside, a delicate blend of cedar, aged paper, and the lingering trace of forgotten moments folded into time. The air around you settles into a hush, as if the chest itself is holding its breath, inviting you to explore the layers hidden within. Inside, a collage of objects waits, each one a quiet keeper of stories, not full tales, but fragments, delicate and unfinished. You pick up a folded letter, the paper thin and fragile beneath your fingertips. Its edges are yellowed and soft, curling slightly as if trying to curl away from the present. The ink, though faded, still traces a familiar looping script. You imagine the hand that penned these words, slow, deliberate, perhaps a little shaky from age or emotion. The letter feels like a whispered conversation across time, words left unspoken in person, but held carefully here, preserved in the silence of folded paper. Turning your gaze, your fingers brush over a photograph, edges softened and worn. The image is sun-drenched, a quiet street corner bathed in afternoon light, where the shadows stretch long and soft. There's a child caught mid-laugh, face tilted toward the sun, eyes shining with the innocent joy of a moment that will never come again. You wonder about the child's story, where they are now, what their days look like. The picture doesn't answer, but holds the warmth of memory, like a faint glow under the surface of water. Nestled beneath the photo lies a small wooden figure, roughly carved but lovingly shaped. Its surface is worn smooth from hands that have held it countless times, edges softened by time. You imagine it once meant to be a talisman, a steady presence through uncertain days. The figure's simple lines suggest a person, but the details have blurred, a reminder that memories, too, lose sharpness, becoming shapes of feeling rather than form. There's a faded ticket stub folded carefully in one corner, its colors dulled by years, but still hinting at a place you barely remember, an old movie theater, a summer fair, perhaps a train ride somewhere far away. The stub carries with it the faint scent of popcorn and grass, the sound of distant laughter, and the soft hum of a crowd settling into quiet anticipation. You recall the unremarkable day it represents, yet the quiet joy woven into the fabric of ordinary life. Your hand lingers on a pressed flower, fragile and flattened between sheets of paper. The petals have lost their bright color, now a gentle sepia tone. The flower seems out of place amid the sturdier objects, delicate and fleeting. You imagine the day it was picked, a quiet afternoon walk, a moment of pause, the way the light caught on the petals like a secret. It feels like a small treasure, the kind that asks only to be remembered softly. Among the items, a faded map slips from beneath a bundle of letters. Its creases worn and softened by folding, it outlines streets and paths from a place you once visited or perhaps only dreamed about. You trace the lines with your finger, feeling the rough texture of the paper, imagining footsteps that once followed those paths. The map feels like an invitation, a door left slightly open, waiting for the courage to explore. Each object unfolds a small story, not complete or fully told, but rich with suggestion. The memories ripple quietly, like soft waves brushing against the shore, never crashing, never overwhelming, but persistent in their gentle presence. You listen to the silent voices of these keepsakes, feeling the layers of time and emotion they carry without words. The dry humor of life emerges in small, unexpected details. A note with a glaring typo transforms a serious message into an accidental joke, a souvenir that seems oddly mismatched to the collection, a miniature Eiffel Tower from a trip you never took. These quirks add texture, warmth, and a touch of lightness to the otherwise quiet reverence of the moment. You pause to hold a thin ribbon, its fabric faded and frayed, the scent of lavender faint but unmistakable. It seems to carry the essence of a soft-spoken goodbye or a delicate greeting, something tender and fleeting. The ribbon wraps around your fingers like a whispered promise, a connection between past and present that doesn't need explanation. The light in the room shifts as the day fades further. Shadows lengthen and pool across the chest's contents, wrapping the objects in a gentle embrace. The quiet murmur of the tavern beyond the walls blends with the soft rustle of leaves outside, creating a calm, steady soundtrack to your reflections. You close the chest carefully, the lid settling with a soft thud. The latch clicks shut like a whispered secret, locking away the fragments once more until another quiet day calls them forth again. The time capsule rests in stillness, a keeper of memories both vivid and blurred, a testament to the layers of your life folded gently inside. Outside, the twilight deepens, the sky painted in muted shades of purple and blue. You breathe in the cool air, feeling the weight of the past and the softness of the present settle together. The objects, with their stories half told and their humor tucked quietly beneath the surface, remind you that life is made up of countless small moments, each one precious, each one quietly significant. And here, in this space, the past and present meet in a gentle, unspoken conversation, held tenderly in the stillness of a wooden chest and the patient hands that open it. You settle into the chair, its worn fabric soft beneath your fingertips, and gaze out the window as twilight stretches across the sky like a slow sigh. The air outside carries the faint scent of damp earth and distant rain, a quiet promise of change that has yet to arrive. Here, in this stillness, your mind begins to drift, reaching forward gently across the years, 20, 30, maybe 40 ahead, to a future as uncertain as it is inevitable. It isn't a restless imagining or a tangled worry pressing on your chest. Instead, it's a calm, steady curiosity, the kind that curls softly around your thoughts like the warm scarf draped over your lap. You picture this place, the one you know so intimately now, shifting slowly over time, like a tree growing taller, its branches reaching in new directions while its roots stay planted deep. The wooden floor beneath your feet, scuffed and familiar, might be replaced with polished tiles or synthetic planks. The chairs, once hard and creaky, could be swapped for sleek designs you don't yet recognize. Maybe the machines humming softly nearby will be gone, their presence replaced by quieter devices or even hands working with tools you've never seen. The thermostat that has teased you with its stubborn inconsistency might finally be fixed, or maybe decades from now, it'll still groan faintly whenever someone tries to adjust it, a tiny rebellion against progress. You wonder who will stand where you stand now. Will they recognize the rhythms you've come to know, The way you move slowly and deliberately, the quiet patience you carry? Or will they rush through the motions, guided by new needs and unfamiliar tools? Perhaps they'll laugh at the small quirks you've accepted, the squeaky door that never quite closes, the flickering light bulb that's been waiting for replacement for years, or the slightly crooked picture frame hanging just out of line. The thought of a future stranger, tracing their fingers over the same surfaces you touch now, brings a faint smile. Will they feel connected to the lives that came before them? Or will your world seem like a strange, faded photograph, familiar only in outlines, distant and dim? Maybe they'll find notes tucked away, reminders of laughter and whispered conversations, tiny echoes of warmth folded into cold metal and worn wood. Your mind drifts beyond the walls to the streets you know so well. Will the trees still line the sidewalks, leaves turning the same colors in autumn? Will people walk beneath different skies with different stories? You imagine a younger version of yourself, standing here decades ago, staring toward this very moment, with hope and uncertainty twining together. And now, here you are, looking forward again, eyes wide with gentle curiosity and quiet wonder. You reflect on the daily rituals that shape your world. The way you place tools carefully on the worn countertop, the soft sound of drawers sliding open, the delicate clink of glass against wood. Will these habits persist, or will they be replaced by new gestures and rhythms? Perhaps some traditions will fade gently, like old songs barely remembered, while others will transform into something unrecognizable but no less meaningful. The scent of coffee brewing, the faint crackle of radio static, the subtle hum of fluorescent lights, all of these sensory details anchor you in the present, even as your thoughts stretch into the future. You wonder if future occupants will notice these small marks of life, these imperfections that make the place feel like home. Maybe they'll shake their heads at the stubborn stains on the counter, or smile at the cracked tile that's been patched with mismatched grout. You imagine them dealing with the same frustrations you've learned to tolerate, the temperamental coffee machine that sputters just before the morning rush, the old heater that wheezes and groans through winter, or the flickering bulb above the sink that's always been there, flickering like an inside joke shared between you and this space. There's a dry humor in these imagined moments, a quiet reminder that life's little quirks are timeless, passed down like heirlooms without meaning to be. Outside, the world continues to shift in ways you can barely imagine. The streets might be lined with different shops, the faces passing by unfamiliar. Technology will change the way people work and play, communicate and connect. Maybe one day, the stories you carry, the quiet moments, the gentle routines, will be remembered only in soft photographs or fading memories, tucked away like the items in the old chest you opened not long ago. The weight of time stretches softly around you, neither pressing nor urgent. It's more like the slow drift of clouds across the sky, or the gentle ebb and flow of tides on a distant shore. There is a comforting vastness in this, a reminder that the present is a fleeting moment held between past and future, a space to breathe and be. Your thoughts circle back to yourself, the person who has moved through this place day by day, shaping and being shaped by it. You wonder if you'll be remembered here, not in grand gestures or monumental moments, but in the quiet details, the way you smiled at a stranger, the careful way you arranged your tools, the soft laughter shared in passing. These small marks feel like threads woven into the fabric of time, fragile but lasting. You breathe slowly, the cool air filling your lungs, and feel your body settle into the rhythm of the now. The questions you carry about what will come, what will remain, do not demand answers. They drift gently like leaves on a calm stream, touching softly and moving on, leaving space for the quiet peace that fills the room. The sky outside fades into deep indigo, the first stars blinking awake in the vast expanse. You sit in the stillness, held gently by the weight of years yet to come, the soft pulse of memory, and the endless possibilities stretching quietly ahead. You sink slowly into the chair, feeling the familiar contours press gently into your back, the fabric soft but worn, its threadbare patches telling quiet stories of long use. Outside, the night stretches wide and deep, the darkness pressing softly against the windows like a thick velvet curtain pulled closed. In this stillness, your mind begins to drift, not with urgency or worry, but in those quiet, harmless ways where small fantasies emerge, delicate as shadows shifting in a room, lit only by a single candle. These daydreams aren't the grand visions of changing the world or chasing impossible dreams. No, they are modest and fleeting, like small, secret gifts to yourself tucked away inside the corners of your mind. You imagine the space around you subtly transforming, almost imperceptibly. Maybe the lamp on the desk glows just a little warmer tonight, bathing the room in honeyed light that softens every harsh edge and crevice. The glow isn't loud or bright. It's a hush, like a whispered lullaby that wraps around you and lets you breathe easier. You think of the radio sitting quietly on the shelf, its usual static and crackle replaced with a faint melody that only you can hear. It's not a song anyone else would recognize, just a gentle hum of notes that seem to settle like a warm breeze against your skin. You smile to yourself, the kind of smile born from a private joke, an inside story shared between you and the quiet room you inhabit. There is comfort in that small magic, in knowing that sometimes the world bends just a little for you, if only in your imagination. The objects around you come alive in ways too subtle for anyone else to notice. The coffee mug, chipped and stained, might tilt ever so slightly, nudged by a soft breath of air you can't feel. Papers stacked neatly on the desk might shuffle as if stirred by an unseen hand, rustling softly like a quiet conversation. There's no thunder or sudden change, just the tiniest movements that suggest life beneath stillness, a gentle reminder that nothing ever truly rests. You picture the chair in the corner, the one you have sunk into countless evenings before this. Tonight it fits perfectly, cradling your body as though custom-made. It's a stark contrast to reality, where that same chair creaks and groans in protest every time you shift your weight, its springs making noises suspiciously like complaints. In your small fantasy, the chair is an embrace rather than an annoyance, a comforting vessel that holds you without question. The thought makes you grin quietly, a small, dry acknowledgement of how the ordinary sometimes fails to meet our hopes. Your mind meanders further, imagining the flicker of a fireplace that isn't really there. You see the soft, dancing flames casting warm light against the walls, the scent of burning wood mingling faintly with hints of vanilla and cinnamon, memories of colder evenings and quiet gatherings. The imagined warmth flows through the room, settling into the corners, touching your skin with gentle heat. It's a subtle magic that fills the space with calm, a quiet companionship in the deepening dark. Dry humor nudges its way in here too, gentle and unobtrusive. You remember the countless mornings spent wrestling with a coffee maker that seems to have a personal vendetta against your waking hours, hissing and sputtering just when you need it most. Or the pens that run dry the moment you reach for them mid-sentence, like little pranksters sabotaging your best intentions. In your fantasies, these nuisances vanish, replaced by flawless machines and endlessly reliable tools. But even in that perfection, there's no grand spectacle, just a small, pleasant ease that makes the day go by a little smoother. Outside, You picture the world shifting in subtle ways. A single star blinks brighter in the night sky, as if acknowledging your quiet wishes. A breeze stirs the leaves just so, their rustling forming a rhythm that seems to echo your heartbeat. The world holds its breath, waiting for a small, unexpected spark of wonder that may or may not come. And the waiting itself becomes part of the charm, a peaceful pause filled with gentle possibility. Your thoughts drift like clouds, soft and aimless. These fantasies come and go without demand, arriving quietly and fading like mist in the morning sun. They leave behind a gentle glow, a lightness that brightens the edges of the evening and eases the weight of day. You breathe deeply, savoring the calm that wraps around you like a familiar shawl. The harmless daydreams flow through your mind like a slow stream, carrying with them whispers of hope, comfort, and quiet laughter. The night around you feels vast, yet intimate, a place where nothing needs to change, but everything feels just a little more possible. You imagine that in this small world, the ordinary takes on a touch of magic. The ticking clock becomes a steady heartbeat, a reminder of time's gentle passing rather than its relentless march. The flicker of a candle's flame is a silent dance, a private celebration of warmth and light. Even the soft creak of the floorboards beneath your feet seems like a friendly murmur, a companion in the quiet. There's a sense of safety here, a soft shelter from the noisy rush of the outside world. Your small fantasies don't ask for more. They don't demand action or change, only gentle attention and acceptance. They remind you that sometimes the smallest thoughts can hold the deepest comfort. You picture yourself walking through this space, tracing your fingers over familiar surfaces, feeling the smooth grain of a wooden table, the cool touch of glass, the faded softness of a well-loved book's pages. Each texture becomes a thread in the fabric of your quiet reverie, grounding you even as your mind wanders. There's humor, too, tucked beneath the calm. A sly grin at the thought of the perfect morning where every little annoyance vanishes, or the ridiculous idea that the mail might finally arrive on time every day. These small, unlikely hopes feel like private jokes shared with yourself, a gentle way to keep the weight of reality light. The night deepens, the world outside folding into shadows and silence. Your breath slows, matching the steady pulse of the quiet room. The small fantasies that drift through your mind begin to settle, folding into the soft folds of sleep's approach. You let yourself linger in this peaceful space, where nothing happens but everything feels possible, where small daydreams bloom and fade without consequence. Here, in the stillness, you find a moment of calm, delicate, bright, and quietly yours. The room around you has softened into a quiet sanctuary. The chair beneath you feels familiar and steady, its fabric worn smooth from years of use, pressing gently against your skin. The faint creaks and sighs of the old wood settling beneath your weight are like whispered companions, each sound a reminder of the slow, steady passage of time. There is no rush here, no urgency to fill the silence, only the soft, comforting rhythm of stillness. Your breath deepens naturally, slow and even, like waves folding gently onto a calm shore. Each inhale fills you with the coolness of the night air, drifting in through a slightly open window, carrying the subtle scent of damp earth and fading leaves. The exhale releases tension you hadn't realized you were holding, softening your shoulders and loosening the quiet grip of wakefulness. Your fingertips rest lightly against the arm of the chair. The texture of the fabric beneath them is cool and rough, a small anchor in this quiet moment. You notice the subtle hum of the room, the faint buzz of the heater working softly in the background, the occasional creak of the house settling, the distant, muffled sounds of nighttime beyond these walls. These sounds do not intrude but blend into the fabric of the stillness, becoming part of the gentle pulse you sink into. Your eyes rest on the soft pools of light cast by a nearby lamp, its glow mellow and steady, casting gentle shadows that stretch lazily across the room. Dust motes dance slowly in the beam, turning in silent circles like tiny galaxies moving in their own time. The edges of the furniture blur, softened by the dimness, and the room seems to breathe quietly along with you. The scent in the air is subtle but grounding, a faint mixture of worn fabric, old books, and the faint trace of lavender from the sachet tucked into a drawer nearby. This scent weaves itself around you like a delicate thread, tying together memory and present moment in a soft embrace. It is a quiet reminder of comfort, a scent that speaks of home and gentle routines. As you sit, your attention turns inward to the steady, comforting rhythm of your own body. The rise and fall of your chest with each breath is a slow, calming tide. You feel the warmth of your hands resting in your lap, the slight pulse beneath your fingertips, the soft beating of your heart echoing quietly inside your chest. Each sensation is a delicate anchor, drawing you deeper into this calm, unhurried moment. Time here folds in on itself, stretching and slowing until it seems almost to stand still. The boundaries between past, present, and future blur into a gentle haze. Thoughts, once sharp and urgent, soften into distant murmurs, like voices heard through a fog. You let them drift without trying to grasp or follow, watching them fade softly into the quiet. There is no story to tell here, no conclusion or ending to seek. The tale has slowed into a whisper, its words unraveling like threads pulling free from a worn sweater. The story doesn't end. It simply pauses, dissolving into the deep stillness that surrounds you. You notice the soft textures around you, the worn grain of the wooden table nearby, the smooth coolness of the glass resting on its surface, the faint creak of the floorboards beneath your feet. These details fold into the quietness, becoming part of the rhythm you feel in your bones. The light shifts subtly as the night deepens. Shadows grow longer and softer, wrapping the room in a gentle embrace. You feel yourself dissolve into that softness, your edges blurring and fading, merging with the calm space around you. The chair, the light, the faint scent in the air, they become extensions of yourself, part of the peaceful whole. Your breath slows further, becoming a quiet tide ebbing and flowing in harmony with the gentle pulse of the night. The air feels cooler now, brushing softly against your skin, carrying the distant murmur of wind through leaves and the faint call of an owl settling into the dark. There is a delicate stillness here, a profound quiet that wraps around your thoughts and holds them gently. The urge to hold on to anything, worries, plans, memories, loosens and falls away, leaving only the soft weight of presence. You feel your body sink deeper into the chair, each muscle releasing its tension like the slow fall of leaves in autumn. Your mind softens, thoughts scattering like dandelion seeds, carried on a gentle breeze, light, aimless, and free. The boundaries between self and space blur further. You are no longer just sitting in a room. You are part of the room's quiet breathing, part of the soft pulse of stillness that fills the night. Sounds become more distant, more muted. The hum of the heater fades to a gentle heartbeat. The creak of the floorboards turns into a whisper, blending with the faint rustle of fabric as you shift slightly, settling into the moment. Your heartbeat slows in tandem with your breath, each beat a gentle reminder of life's quiet persistence. The rhythm is steady, calming, a lullaby without words. You feel yourself drifting closer to sleep, that borderland where thought softens to silence and presence becomes weightless. The world around you continues its slow transformation. Shadows deepen and lengthen. The room grows darker, wrapped in the soft cloak of night. The light from the lamp dims subtly, its warmth folding into the broader darkness like a fading ember. You are held in this space, suspended between wakefulness and dreams. There is no need to resist the pull, no reason to fight the drift. You allow yourself to dissolve gently, slipping past the edges of consciousness into the quiet depths beneath. Breath by breath, moment by moment, you sink deeper. The story stops being told, its last words fading into silence. There is no ending here, only the soft continuation of stillness. The room, the chair, the light, the faint scent in the air, all of it becomes a quiet vessel holding you safely as you drift. You are part of the calm, the gentle pulse of night, a presence dissolving softly into the space around you. And with that, the quiet settles fully, wrapping you in peace as you drift away, deeper and deeper, toward sleep.